when dealing with something like this, it's a numbing feeling initially, and then when you slowly start, to feel again, it's a confusing feeling. But I know at the end of the day, I'll be strong through it, but it feels like it's something that's gonna be definitely long lasting.
Earlier this year, on June 23rd, Nick Cannon and model Alyssa Scott welcomed their first child together, Zen Scott Cannon. But tragically, less than 6 months later, on December 5th, their infant son died of brain cancer. 2 days later, Nick shared the heartbreaking news for the first time on his daytime talk show.
So I'm here to show that I can fight through this. I'm feeling it, I'm vulnerable, I'm open, y'all, but I'm gonna make it through, and this is a special show dedicated to my beautiful son, Z.
From the beginning, we always called him Z chilling, because he was just chilling and came out smiling, and she was cool. And like the doctor even said, like, yo, this is probably one of the easiest labors I've ever had to deal with. I was like, he takes after his mom. And I mean, obviously, I think a lot is in the name. When you name your child Zen, like, it's literally just super calm, super aligned, like, and he just really always embodied that. But like always smiling, like a kid that just smiled at everything and really had this big smile with these big eyes. It was awesome.
But early on, Nick and Alyssa noticed an issue with their son's breathing and were worried Zen had a sinus infection, a possibility that was soon ruled out after several visits to the Children's Hospital of Orange County.
So we took him in, and they were like, he doesn't have anything, there's nothing wrong with his lungs or anything like that. So that we were kind of relieved by that. But then I think the doctor that checked him out initially was he's like, but because they do all the measurements and what percentage they are and this growth, and there's like, everything looks really good, but like we think his head is growing a little too fast. And I kind of just took that as like, oh, all my kids got big heads. Like, I got a big head. Like I got a peanut shaped head. Like, it's like, I was like, oh, and and Alyssa kind of jokingly said the same thing too. She was like, yeah, we just think, we didn't think of it to be anything other than that. But then the doctor said, we want to maybe do a few more tests and maybe take him in for an MRI just to make sure. They didn't want to alarm us or anything. They were just like, we just maybe want to do a couple of tests. So we didn't think nothing of it. We were happy with the news that he didn't have anything wrong with his lungs or any sinus thing.
Nick couldn't be at his son's MRI in person because he had to be in Atlanta, where he was filming a movie, Miracles Across 125th Street. But Nick was able to attend remotely.
I remember she Zoomed me, and I was in the studio, and like she was already in mid-conversation with the doctor, and she had like a concerned look on her face, and I was kind of like, so I'm like trying to pick it up and kind of understand what was going on. And they were saying that they wanted to run more tests, and then they started to explain what hydrocephalus was and how that can just be fluid in your brain, and it's not anything to be super duper concerned about, but there's ways to, if we catch it early enough, it's a condition that can be controlled, and they can get the fluid and drain it out, and they were telling us all these things. So trying to be super optimistic at that point. But then that doctor wanted to bring in another doctor to have a different conversation with us. That's when the conversation probably got a little bit more serious, because they were talking. One, he was optimistic when like, yo, best case, it could just be fluid, and we can find out, why it's fluid building up, and we could just put a shunt, a drain inside. It's a small procedure, it take about an hour. That was scary enough for us. But it was like, oh, it can be controlled, and they take the shunt and it drains it out, and his head will be a normal size, and he can go on and live life like a normal human being, if that's all it is. That was kind of the best case scenario. But then they mentioned, he was like, but we're really concerned of why there's fluid building up and not draining. And he's like, and it appears to be only building up on one side. And he's like, I haven't, he was like, after we do more tests, we'll know. But he's like, I've seen this many times before. If it's kind of building up on one side, that means there's some kind of blockage. And it's like, and then he explained to us that those blockages in the brain, are tumors. He was like, but optimistically, and he was like, we can do the immediate surgery with the shunt and the drainage and these tests all at the same time. So we'll have answers, and at least Zen will be in a more relieved place, because that was my thing. It's like I just didn't want him to suffer and wanted him to be as comfortable as possible. So when you hear that your 2-month-old has to have brain surgery, it's like that in itself is devastating. So I literally just jumped on a plane, and I was like, please, just don't do the procedure before I can get there. So literally from that Zoom call, I kind of booked a flight, and I got in that night, but I think the procedure was set up for 7 a.m. So we were there at Children's Hospital, Orange County, bright and early, and they did the procedure. The first surgery was successful, and that in itself, being in that hospital with all those wires and things hooked up into your child and tests like that was scary enough, but at least we were there together. And we were like, well, in my mind, trying to be as optimistic as possible, was like, well, this is successful, and so we're in a good place, right? And then that's when the first time I got to get some clarity and understanding, and talking with, with several doctors, but Dr. Alyssa was the one that kind of led it. He was like, well, there is a tumor, and it does look to be growing. And it's like, it's a very rare form of cancer. And he kind of explained it to me, because, I thought the hydrocephalus was probably the biggest issue. But then obviously they kind of broke it down to where it's like, no, the tumor is the biggest issue, and it's growing. And then we kind of got into that mindset. It was really sad, but like being there, it was like, you start asking those questions, like, well, is there a way to prevent this? Is there, if not, how long do we have? And, it was those type of conversations. And that's probably the frustrating part, because they can't give you an answer. They can give you treatments. And, I guess Zen's condition, after I did a little bit of the research and spent a lot of time with Dr. Alyssa, I realized that no one has ever survived this beyond the age of 5 with the type of tumor that he had. So then that's when you start to think like, man, well, we're just really having quality of life conversations and wanting them to be as comfortable and be, a normal kid as possible. From that point on, every month we would celebrate his birthday, kind of have 3-month, 4-month, like all of those things, and just really seeing it as a victory every time he had a milestone, that he was still here with us, because, they explained to us that it's probably, and that's the thing, that was really difficult for me, because, it was like, it could be weeks, it could be months, it could be years. And like we use that term, just quality of life. We just want him to be comfortable and as happy as he could possibly be for the time that he had. But it took a turn really quickly. I mean, because even in my mind, I'm like, all right, we were making plans for next summer and doing this. And again, like, we wanted to plan trips and stuff, because we wanted him to have the best life he could possibly have. But I would say, around Thanksgiving is really when, he took a turn pretty quickly, and went from being this vibrant, loving, smiling, real chill baby to kind of, really crying quite a bit. He used to focus and lock in, just like, every other baby that's doing well. And then his eyes would really start to wander, and went from like looking at us to like kind of just having this look to where we don't know what he's looking at. And then like, things that, was pretty tough on Alyssa. It was like a lot of, like, he couldn't really keep his food down. He wouldn't eat as much. And when he would eat, he would throw everything up. So it got really intense probably, around Thanksgiving. And that's when, the conversations would change with the hospice nurses to where like, oh, this is great and he's amazing, to where, they would also start talking to us about preparing and what we want to do and stuff. So that's when we kind of knew like we didn't have as much time as we thought we did. Yeah, I remember they would say like after Thanksgiving, they were starting to say like yeah, weeks. And that was the first time we started hearing weeks. Like they're like, and so, and obviously it being the holidays, it was like, man, this is, we were praying we could get to Christmas. But and then, as everything progressed, I really started to be more concerned for Alyssa, just knowing, because as his condition worsened, it was more intense on her, and I could see it taking a toll. So I was really just trying to be there, and kind of alleviate as much drama and stress as I possibly could, if that makes any sense. But so I wanted to, kind of have those quiet times and opportunities to talk about, processing, even all the things that now that we're actually dealing with right now, like how do you celebrate his life? And, one of the things we came up with, and because Alyssa's super spiritual and super optimistic in how she lives her life. And I'm always like, man, you're so strong. Like, you're going to be like the perfect example for any other mother who's dealing in any similar situation like this. And I was like, this is a new calling on your life. Like, this is purposeful right here. It's like God's given us the opportunity to spend time with this angel, and we got to continue to let his light shine no matter what. And that's where we found this joy, and really started to talk about it like every day, like what we could kind of do. And we came up with the term Zen's light, and we were saying how we want Zen's light to shine forever. And I was like, yo, that has to be the name of our foundation. Really just feeding into her, because when I tell you that her strength is, I've never seen anything like it. She even posted something today on her Instagram, and it's like so poetic, man. Like, it's like, yo, this is what you should be doing. Like, this is clearly your calling. So if anything, Zen has given you the opportunity now to have a true purpose and to help other people who are going through this.
On Thursday, December 2nd, Nick finished work in New York and flew back to Los Angeles to spend what would be his final days with Zen.
I guess it was Saturday night. I remember it was this breathing that I had never really heard before. Like, you always had to, but it was like this one. And I think Alyssa called, it was a term I had never really heard before, but it just called it, like, I think it's like labored breathing or something like that, where it's like you could just see he was struggling. It wasn't easy. Like, he was like gasping for air, and like we'd wake up, and it was probably some of the scariest stuff I've ever experienced, because we'd wake up and he wouldn't be breathing for like maybe 5 to 10 seconds at a time. And then he'd let out a huge gasp. And then that, you could see like it frightened him. And so then he'd like be crying and crying. And so happy that we, made it through that night. On Saturday, we woke up. Sunday, I was like, being in Orange County, like, yo, we gotta go to the beach. We have to, like, just watch the sunrise early morning, kind of just be there with him. And we got an opportunity to do that, one last time, spend the entire day, his last day at the beach. And it was beautiful, It was, again, like when I say it was poetic, it was one of those things where it was meaningful, and so many small little things that, when you have the universe, the most high force kind of letting you know everything is going to be all right, and that it feels like, maybe the end physically, but it's only the beginning spiritually. We had our last, or we didn't know it was going to be our last, but we had our visit with the nurse, and we were just, happy that he was keeping his medicine down and he was calm. And, we talked about the breathing, and, he was breathing pretty normal. So I was like, okay, well, I literally was like, I'm gonna head to the airport so I can go back to work, and catch the flight to come to New York, and hug and kiss, and, just kind of even play with Zen for the last moment before I walked out the door. And literally, like, I think the nurse had left too, and I think somebody was coming to deliver like an oxygen machine. And I think I might have been gone maybe 15 minutes to head to the airport, and she called me, in hysterics, and I had to turn back around. That was that moment. And that's kind of when I just, canceled everything, obviously, and just just was there for. And you know, those are one, you know, some of those moments where like, man, I was like, should have never even walked out of that door. You know what I mean? Like, but I thought I was being optimistic again. Like I said, I was kind of praying and hoping for, you know, we would get to the holidays and Christmas and maybe it would happen, you know, over the break. But I knew like there was a possibility that, you know, and, you know, that's how I also see it as a blessing that I got to be there when it was. And Alyssa says, she always says, she's like, I think he was just waiting for you.
Nick canceled the Monday taping of his show, but was back on the air Tuesday, December 7th, where he revealed his tragic news for the first time.
Today is a special one, y'all. It's like, for many reasons, but it's not gonna be an easy one. Because I got so much to talk about. I actually haven't even shared this with anybody, really. I mean, not even, you know, the crew.
I didn't want to hide anything because literally grieving. I'm going through stuff and I didn't want to sit and act like nothing's happening. So I struggled. I struggled like, you know, do we just act like nothing happens and wait a few weeks and then tell everyone, you know, and even that for a sec, that was gonna be a plan. I was like, that was too impossible. I would probably be in the middle of something and just break down crying, or, you know, like, or probably my energy would be different. And I think, you know, people aren't fools. They know when you're going through stuff. So I was like, well, look, if the goal here is to just be as transparent and as honest, and that's some of the beauty of having a platform, this is life. And then I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna get through this and I have to do this. And it was a lot of I. And then by the thing I didn't expect is how it actually helped so many other people, and people kind of sharing their stories and, you know, their process of grieving. You know, I was just doing it because I know I'm a runner. I'm like, yo, if I'm working, if I'm focused on work, all of that other stuff will figure itself out. You know, I'm strong and I got a task at hand. And I kind of, you know, someone told me yesterday and kind of set with me, is like, you got to just let people love on you. And when you do that, that helps you, that helps them. They get to share their stories. And I really believe, you know, you can't heal until you feel. So I was like, I'm gonna just let it all happen however it happens.
I know so many people out there have experienced the kind of pain and grief that I'm experiencing right now. We all know it. This is that time to say you never know what somebody's going through. Hug your people, hug your family, kiss somebody, tell them you love them. It's the holidays, and we're here. We'll be right back.
I think it's two things. One, it makes me value, obviously, each and every moment and every day with all of my loved ones. And it's been nothing but love and joy and admiration, and people sending me their well wishes. You know, I've never experienced this, and it gives me hope in humanity. It gives me hope in people, because I'm used to walking down the street and people saying, hey, I love your show, or hey, I love this. Like, I'm literally walking down the street and people are like coming up to me, hugging me and saying they're there for me, and, you know, they're like complete strangers, people I would never, you know, police officers, and like, you know, like it's things that I've never seen this level of love come my way. And I feel like it's my job to just, you know, reciprocate it and hopefully put it back out into the universe in that same method. And like I said, we got a short time to spend with a true angel who never did anything wrong, and never, you know, really just such a pure spirit. Probably one of the most calm, loving babies I've ever witnessed. So I see it as a blessing. I see it as something that just really, I look at it as a great privilege.